Welcome back. If you just joined us, we'll be looking at the debt recovery drive by the Presidential Interagency Committee on AMCON. And we're also looking at how the AMCON's management is managing some toxic assets in the economy. Our guest on this episode of Question Time is the Managing Director of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, Mr. Ahmed Kuru. Don't go away. Still looking at Nigeria's banking sector, what can be done to stop the piling up of these toxic assets?
I think, for my mind, there need to be quite a lot of regulatory intervention. Why I say this because, if somebody steal money from his employer, it's a very straightforward thing, it's a criminal matter. But when you give a credit, knowing fully well that it is a bad credit right from the beginning, you tend to find that at the end of the day, nobody makes you responsible for that credit. So it's very easy for people to book credit and the credit to go bad. And then people, just go scot-free. But of course, there is no any template that will show you that if you follow this template, nothing will go wrong with the credit. Because there are some external factors that sometimes affects credits. But I believe that one needs to look at some criminal aspect of some commercial transaction, because you can clearly see that some of these credits were booked not with the intention for them to come back. You can clearly see that. And I think as the regulators at a certain point in time needs to look at those from position of initiation to see whether all the credit policies have been strictly adhered to.
Who are those responsible for these proven cases of bad loan intentions?
No, it has to do with the commercial banks, the people that book the credit, because every bank has a credit policy, and there's a credit committee, and there are credit officers. It's very easy for the regulators to, once they go through the credit paper, to know, the details of those credits, and they should be able to understand, where the problems, comes from, and then take whatever measure they need to take to safeguard and protect the system.
What happened to the huge capital AMCON invested in Aero Contractor, and what is the state of the airline now?
Okay, number one, the aviation industry as a whole have challenges. Because if you look at what is happening to the aviation industry, you cannot pick up one airline and say that airline has successfully operated for 10 years without problem. That tells you that you need to bring some reform in the aviation industry. And I think the current Minister of Aviation is looking at some of these reforms that are necessary for sustainability. Number two, Aero, when we intervened in Aero, at the time Aero was transferred to AMCON, obviously they have started, facing quite a lot of challenges. And what AMCON did at the initial stage, when they realized that the debt burden was very high, they converted, some of the debt into equity so that they can reduce the debt burden, But quite a lot of things has happened, some of the legacy shareholders, and AMCON pumped additional money in Aero to see that the airline continue to fly, because it is the oldest airline in Nigeria. It is a very strong brand. And the safety records is unparalleled. It's a very strong airline, But like I said, the industry itself, aviation industry itself, has a lot of challenge. But all along, I'm going to continue to support them. But you see, at the end of the day, it's a business. You can't continue to carry money and pump into a bottomless hole. It has to be run like a business.
When you talk of capital intervention on Aero Contractor, does that include outright takeover of the airline by AMCON?
No. Normally when first of all, you will not say outright taking over of the airline to the extent that AMCON owns 60% of Aero. So you cannot take over a business that you own. You can only change, the management of the business that you owned. And I think that is what we try to do, to see that we get more involved, because initially AMCON wasn't much involved in what is happening in Aero. And when we realized that they are facing quite a lot of challenges, we now sought to look for one of the best, managers in the aviation industry. And I think that was when we got Captain Fola. He came in, and then he started, the restructuring process. Unfortunately for us, he has recently also been assigned as MD of NAMA. So we have to now go back to the drawing board, to find another competent manager that can see through the restructuring, repositioning process that was started by, Captain Fola. So technically, you can't say somebody has taken over a business that belongs to him.
So when you talk of 60% controlling share of Aero Contractor and the airline is grounded today, does that suggest that AMCON takes responsibility for the failure of Aero Contractor?
No, it is not business run by AMCON, because AMCON doesn't run any business. AMCON doesn't run any business. We don't have the competence to run any business. But AMCON can intervene in businesses. And the way we intervene in businesses is to find the best available personnel in that area and then ask them to go and look after the business.
Let's come into specifics now, looking into figures and the books now. How much of capital did AMCON invested into Aero Contractor?
No, I would not want to divulge some information, but I can tell you this. When we took over Aero, the debt profile at that time was in the region of, I think, 30 billion. And what we did, we converted some of the debt into equity. And I think we ended up with 60%, and then a debt profile of, I think, 12 billion, and then they're supposed to pay within a period of, I think, 7 years or thereabout.
Earlier last year, the president inaugurated the Presidential Interagency Committee on AMCON. How would you evaluate the role of this committee?
They are helping us in our efforts, because part of the recovery efforts, we have to deal with police, we have to deal with EFCC, we have to deal with Ministry of Justice, we have to deal with quite a lot of other government agencies, including NNPC, DMO, and they all fall within that setup. And they are helping us. The Attorney General of the Federation has been very helpful, and I think it's a very helpful setup.
Now let's look at the economic outlook and your projections for the year 2017. Last year, Nigeria suffered a huge recession. What are your projections for the year 2017?
I think it's going to be a good year. You see, I always tell people that the problem of Nigeria is not basically economic related. Yes, there are economy issues, but you see, we have problem with governance. Because if we don't address the issue of governance, we'll continue to have issues. We've had Vision 1900, we've had Vision 2000, we've had Vision 2010, 2020. You can have a very good plan, very good idea. If you don't have people that have integrity, people that know what they are doing, and you don't make your institutions very strong, regardless of the number of professors or specialists that you bring to look at your economy, it will not, be able to take you to where you want to be.
Of late, we've been hearing of the call for another AMCON. Does that mean that AMCON is ready to acquire more bad loans?
No, this AMCON will not buy any loan. The call that people have been talking about, they've been talking about AMCON 2. And you see, what they are saying is that they will encourage the private sector to raise funds. And with those funds, they will approach commercial banks and say, okay, if you have bad loans, come and sell to us. Private sector driven. Come and sell those loans to us. We'll manage the loans. It has nothing to do with you again.
Mr. Ahmed Kuru, Managing Director of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, thank you so much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time. Thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru. Bye for now.